So hello and welcome to the state of travel in Italy this tonight. We're a bit late, but that's my fault because I had to change location from home to a friend for dinner before the curfew kicked in, and I had a bit of a lot of stuff going on. But anyway, so with Carol, we wanted to speak a bit about how travel is moving forward, even if we can't travel for the moment.
Right.
So, sorry. Do you want to take that to start? I want
Yeah, sure. Katarina. She's always on the move. Um,
This is like live stream happening in the moment.
yeah, so we decided we were going to talk about travel 2021 tonight. And it's a complicated subject because of course everybody's talking about the vaccine and the rollout of the vaccine here in Italy or in other parts of Europe versus what's happening in America versus what's happening in Australia and other parts of the world is all fascinating. And I've been trying to follow that as much as possible because that will determine a lot of things like how the vaccines roll out and then what the airlines say. Like, what are the airlines going to say? Are they going to allow people who don't get a vaccine to get on an airplane and fly to Italy? I mean, or not.
Yeah.
And there probably won't be so many anti-vaxxers, or that's probably a smaller percentage of people, but we still have to deal with those. And what if there are some of those on the airplane mixed in with those people who have taken the vaccine, and how the airlines are going to deal with all of that is going to be really interesting.
No, for
So,
sure. Yeah.
I mean, in speaking with my vendors and hotels and people in the business, people are starting to prepare for at least for summer and fall of this year, and then for sure 2022, because once we get past this hump of vaccines, no vaccines, travel, and how that all works, there is going to be a huge flood of tourism. Like we can safely say that at some point, when the green light is really green and people can travel, there's going to be a lot of work and a lot of people flooding into Italy and other parts of the world. We're just concerned with Italy, right? So people are coming back, people are excited, people can't wait to travel again, all of that. So we need to be prepared for that is my feeling and my experience, and what the discussions I'm having with colleagues and so forth is preparing for that eventual day. Because can you imagine, a lot of people haven't been able to travel since 2019. They're saving money, there's money sitting in the bank, they're ready to go, they're ready to spend. So I mean, I think there's going to be a return, and at some point it might be a bit of a flood of return. We just don't know exactly when that's going to be. So
No, I agree. I mean, I don't know. Do you think the way of traveling will be different also? Or do you think it's just going to be a lot of travel happening at once, or?
yeah, that's a really good question. Like, so the città delle arte, right? Rome, Venice, Florence have all suffered immensely in this whole pandemic. The hotels, the numerous hotels who have had to close, and who knows how many of them can reopen, etc. But the question is, are people going to want to come back and be in crowded cities and wait in line at the Duomo again? Or stand in line to climb to the top of the Campanile? Those days, are they really going to come back, or are people just going to be like, I don't in a crowded city. For me, from my perspective, given what I do, that's a fairly good sign, because I work with people who want to be out in nature and um, walk in the countryside here in Italy and have experiences outside of the big city environments. But that's a huge it's a huge market. The artistic cities, the cultural tours, the floods of people who go to Florence, Venice, Rome every year to see the amazing art, and it's all really valid. So how that's all going to roll out is a really interesting conversation, because will people,
I mean, are they going to be able to accommodate? I don't think they can take in people like they did before. Probably they still have to be
exactly.
at least for a couple of years, because I mean,
Mhm.
nobody wants to get back to what we are in now. So it might be that tourism doing outdoor things will be more, which could also be a nice thing, because it's, you know, like the
Right.
things you do, but also like another friend of mine who does also biking tours, like in Terre di Casole, biking tours, and
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of people. I have a lot of guide friends and colleagues who also do bicycle tourism. There's tons of that, and they're all just sort of waiting for all that to return. I mean, we can see that I'm pretty sure in all over Europe, as well as the States and probably other parts of the world, people got out and moved around a lot in 2020. Like, people started biking who hadn't biked in years. The bicycle sales went up some. I don't know the percentages or anything, but um, people got on e-bikes if they didn't feel confident in biking. So e-bike sales were over the top. They couldn't keep up with the production of the e-bikes because they were selling so many, and all these kinds of things. So it's all actually really good news, because people may sign on to do something active and outdoorsy, um, organized by themselves or organized through a tour operator like myself, that they hadn't really considered before. Maybe before they would have come to Italy and have done, Rome, Venice, Florence, and now they're thinking about, oh, maybe we'll go to Italy and do something active, and do a hiking trip or a biking trip or something they hadn't considered before COVID. So that's really an interesting
but
conversation.
that might be a bit like what we talked about the first time. Now that new areas might open up in that sense, because if you need to be out, or not need to, but it's better to be outdoors and do other things like hiking or whatever. It could also be like areas that before had more difficulties might be more attractive now. I don't know, like Campania or Le Marche or the inland of Abruzzo or something, because
Exactly. That people might discover other parts of Italy that they might not have gone to otherwise.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's actually really exciting, because it opens up a whole new world to a whole new market of people who might not have had considered active and outdoor travel before the whole pandemic. And then, of course, there's always going to be that percentage of people who just want to go to the cities, and they just want to see museums and art and so forth. And so they'll come and take the risk and whatever, of being in larger crowds of people, or they'll wait it out and come later.
yeah.
So I think there's a little bit of everything. Um,
But I actually went, because when in October I actually went to Bergamo. Bit scary, but I went to Bergamo for a wine competition, and so it's
wow.
Emozioni dal Mondo, which is a competition that a small consortium, Val Calepio, close to Bergamo, organizes every year. So basically, they take in also wines from all over the world that make Merlot and Cabernet, because that's specifically what they do in that area. And they said that the last day they always organized like visits to museums in Bergamo and around. But obviously they couldn't do that last year because, I mean, we even had to all have masks already done when outdoors. We couldn't take them off,
Right.
because they couldn't risk it. But it was actually quite nice because we got a tour, like a walking tour of the city instead of, going to a museum. And actually we saw like a lot of the city, and then we walked up to the old part of the city. So it could also be like, nice to do a walking tours a bit more of the cities, perhaps more than one did before. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, absolutely. Outdoor walking tours of cities is fantastic. Of course, you have to have people who are
Yeah,
mobile enough to do that, because like in a city like Rome, or Venice, it can involve a lot of walking. So you have to be
yeah,
mobile, but it's so beautiful. And again, yeah, you're moving, you're out, you're moving maybe through crowds a little bit, but getting into smaller places. I mean, the really good guides are always taking you in places that are not crowded and not filled with people. So yeah, I totally agree. And Bergamo Alto is so
yeah.
beautiful. I guess you saw. It's so beautiful, and a lot of people just don't even know about Bergamo Alto. How beautiful it is. The cobblestone streets and the architecture. It's so beautiful.
No, I had been there before, but I actually took the Funivia, I think, the other times, and I didn't realize that it wasn't that far to go from the lower part to the higher part.
to
So
the
it's
upper
actually,
part.
yeah, it's not that far. I mean, okay, it's uphill, so you have
Mhm.
to be able to be a bit of a walker, but it's not that bad. I thought it was further than it was, and it was nice because you got, more an idea of the different parts of the town, and the buildings. Of course, you don't see the museums from inside, but still, perhaps you get another
Right,
story than only going to like two museums or whatever. So yeah.
right.
So what do you think about the
So
Procida and being a cultural city? How will they deal? Do you think they will have difficulties with it being a COVID year still?
um, did you say Florence?
No,
I
Procida,
missed that.
the
Oh, Procida,
the
Procida. Yeah, that's really exciting. That's going to be the European cultural city of 2022. Um, I'm excited about it because it's an island, or a series of islands, actually. Um, and I've never been there, so now I have like a super incentive to go there. Um, yeah, I mean, it's just so different, so unique, as compared to Matera, or other places that have been cultural cities in the past that have then had a huge draw. Um, Matera already had a bit of a fascination, and
yeah,
the films had been made there, and people were talking about it. Procida, people just don't know anything about it, and then being, this having this kind of island characteristic makes it even more alluring, I think. And it also, I think what's really great about it is that people don't realize just how many islands there are around the Italian peninsula, from like the islands that are just off of Tuscany, the islands off of Naples, the islands that are off of the island of Sicily, and then all the islands that are off of the East Coast, off of Puglia. Um, People are just unaware of the number of islands that that Italy has sort of around it. So I think there might be even more of an awareness around that. And then, of course, the bigger island, of course, Sardinia, Sardinia, Sicily, and then Corsica, which is part of France. But I think it's also just kind of cool to think about, the whole island aspect of it. Have you been to Procida?
I haven't been to Procida. No, I always wanted to. I don't know. Letizia, have you been to Procida? No. So it's going to be an opportunity to go.
Absolutely.
To discover more. No.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure there'll be all kinds of exciting events and things happening there, like they did, in the past in other European cultural cities. Like last year, not last year, but the year before in Matera, they had, or was it last year that Matera was it 2020 or 2019? I can't remember, but they had that amazing
2019, no?
They had the amazing Salvador Dali exhibit there, and so many musical and theatrical performances throughout the year, and just amazing stuff. So it's a huge draw, I think, for people.
Yeah, and I mean, Procida is an island, so it's even more. I guess in the summer it will be, so you can enjoy the seaside and I mean, Matera is a beautiful town, but it's a bit more mountainside.
That's right. Yeah. A little bit more challenging to get to, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be interesting. I don't know if anybody who is listening in want to comment if they've been to Procida. Feel free to do so. But it's definitely a place we need to discover next year.
Yeah.
So when do you think the travel will pick up again? Do you think it's going to be mostly European again this summer, or do you think it's going to?
I think it's going to be mostly European in the summer. Although I have a pretty large American group confirmed for June in Sardinia, which I was a little bit surprised about, considering the vaccine rollout and the delays and complications that have happened in the States, and then like we talked about earlier, not kind of knowing what's going to happen with the airlines and all that. But they're pretty keen to come all the same and just kind of play it by ear and see what happens with everything. So I have this group in June, and then I have other groups confirmed for late August and September, which I had kind of expected. I was more expecting the work to kind of roll out in the fall in terms of group things, and then individuals or couples or smaller groups throughout the summer, etc. So I have to admit, I was a little bit, I was surprised for June, but it's absolutely doable. And so then the question on the other side is always like, well, what's happening in Italy, and how are the vaccines rolling out in Italy? Because of course everything counts, right? It's sort of like what's happening in their country in terms of vaccine rollout, and then what's happening here in Italy. And we're like a month to 2 months behind, let's say, America. And I don't know how far behind Italy is with the rest of Europe, but I imagine there's like a timing thing that's going to have a huge effect on who comes to Italy and when.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I think also it's going to be mostly European, apart from some few from other places in the summer, and then perhaps in the autumn, I guess it's going to be more mixed, perhaps. I don't know. It's also, as you say, we will have to see what happens with the vaccine.
Somebody pointed out to me couple months ago, somebody said this to me, and it really rang true. Like, we have last year as a kind of example. Like, we saw, even in the midst of COVID, with lockdowns on either side, pretty serious lockdowns in the spring, and then again in the fall, we saw who came to Italy, and there were lots of Germans, lots of French, um,
Yeah,
coming down from the French border to Liguria and places like the Cinque Terre. Um, Lots of Germans, some Brits. So, we saw last year, when the situation was even more, let's say, drastic, what happened. And so I think we can anticipate for this summer, or this, late spring, summer, at least that, and maybe more. I mean, that's the way I look at it, is that at least we had this past experience of last summer, and we'll see
yeah, that's
what
true.
happens this summer. But um, I think there'll be some movement of tourism for sure. I think it's just a matter of, like, how much, and um,
Yeah,
yeah.
no,
So
I
mostly
agree.
Europeans for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think also, like I said that I read this article about that we talked about before about hotels cruising up and getting ready for the new season. So definitely, I guess there's a lot of, uh, at least in Italy, but also abroad, like resorts and hotels who gets ready. I don't know if it's also a way to be ready to welcome guests in a new way, or if it's a way to be also kind of take advantage of the time off to kind of renovate a bit. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think, last year, the Italian government, rolled out this whole thing. They call it eco bonus. So, incentivizing personal homeowners, as well as people who own structures like hotels or what have you,
Yeah,
to redo, basically put new roofs on, new windows and infrastructure in a real ecological way. And I don't know the details of eco bonus, like how much is actually covered, but there's quite a bit of it is reimbursed by the government. So there's a huge incentive for people to redo and restructure. And so a lot of people have been taking advantage of that. And then other people just upgrading with, new beds and new curtains, and kind of like a facelift that was, long needed. And they had the time finally. Maybe not, the funds were kind of tight, but people
yeah,
had decided to spend, because, in the meantime, tourists aren't coming, so they may as well make improvements, and upgrade and beautify
yeah,
what they have already. And then lots of new hotels are opening, as we saw, like new, like chic, like cool places are just coming out
yeah.
of the woodworks. I mean, that's really surprising to me. You
Yeah,
know,
I think that's also funny. I mean, I also have some friends here who apparently are opening a hotel towards Pistoia, and I was like, this really no, no, yeah, but they're going to do it, hoping now, I guess, on the period after COVID. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things happening that you might not have imagined before. I think that it's not only kind of negative things coming out of the luckily
absolutely.
the 2020. So
Absolutely. I mean, I've always said, like, it would be really interesting to, and I'm sure somebody's making, like, films and writing books about this kind of stuff, like all the creativity that's come out of COVID and the pandemic, like people who have just decided, like, okay, I'm going to do something really creative, whether that be like to like create a painting, or to build or upgrade a hotel, or do, start start a new I see people locally who have opened restaurants in the last year, and I'm like, wow, like like here where I live in Tuscany is not even a real touristed area. It's all locals, but they took the chance and opened anyways. So you do see pockets of like this kind of creativity and people doing really interesting things this year, just with the hopes that like it's all going to come back. And like we were saying earlier, like eventually tourism is going to return and we're all going to go back to probably not a normal like we knew it once before, with some changes and variations and ways of traveling that will be for sure different. But I really admire people who took that kind of leap of faith, or whatever you want to call it, courage to start something new like in this past year. That's amazing.
No, I agree. I mean, you do read that in the worst crisis is the most creative ideas or initiatives comes out of it, because I guess people on the verge of a crisis and desperation, they kind of, I don't know, channel their
Exactly, they're pushed
mm.
to,
But
yeah.
I think it's going to be positive. I mean, I hope, like we talked before, that the tourism will change a bit to not become this mass globalization nonstop, where everybody do the same things more or less. But then I don't know. I mean, it might go back to. But I think people might be a bit more conscious and aware of what they're doing after a year like this.
Yeah. I mean, there's something they refer to as like herd tourism, right? Which is a little bit
Yeah,
of what was happening in Florence, like, in massive groups with the guide with the umbrella, moving through these big crowds. And if you were in Florence in the piazza in front of the Duomo in, well, any time from like April on, it was like
yeah,
suffocating, just like so many people, and so crowded. It felt like being at a rock concert or something. It's really hard for me to imagine going back to that. After
yeah. For
all.
me too. I mean, it feels like it would be a bit superficial after a year or a year and a half like this. It feels like, I don't know. Would it have meaning? I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Exactly.
now I live here, but if I would go to another country, I don't know if I would like to do that kind of tourism, because it feels like, and not that I did it much before either, but I mean, it would feel probably a bit meaningless to me, even if you do want to see a lot of places, but perhaps you want to be more choose the things you do see instead of just seeing a lot of
Right.
things without being really aware of what you see, which I think was often the case, that
Yeah.
people would walk by and they would visit a lot of places, but they wouldn't really know where they had been. I mean,
Exactly. And we're talking about more kind of generalized big bus tours, and
but there were
buses
people,
coming into Florence where they park outside the city, and then they move them in. Somehow they get them downtown Florence, and they see those 5, 8, 10, amazing monuments, and then they go and they whisk them off to, like, I
yeah,
suppose, Rome, and they're doing all these cities like in a day or two, and like just amazingly superficial. So
but yeah,
hopefully
I mean,
that's
there was a lot of good tourism before too. But I think perhaps that part was still very big because, of course, it's cheaper. It's also a way to make more money for the travel companies, and um, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's something will change. I mean, at least I hope so.
yeah.
To be
Yeah.
more
So
sustainable, at
the,
least. I think
the other
sustainability.
conversation that would be really interesting is like, and I'm sure you have more to say about this, but people think they don't understand distances. So they come in, they know they're booked in Florence for 4 nights or something, and they think, oh, we can go to the Cinque Terre in a day, which you can do, but it's going to take you 2.5, 3 hours to get there. You're not going to be able to walk the Cinque Terre because you might get there by like 9, 10 in the morning, and then you can't walk the entire Cinque Terre in I mean, you could if you're a speed walker or something, but um, it takes time, like an hour and a half between each of the 5 villages, and to be able to actually see the villages and everything, you need a couple days. But a lot of people just want to go up there and do it in one day, and then taste the wines from the Cinque Terre, and what's the food specialty? Okay, we want that too, and we want to do it all in a day, and then come back to Florence, and then the next day we're going to do Siena, and they kind of pack it all into a very short period of time. These are the kinds of things that I would like to see change, where people are taking more time and devoting more days, and just slowing down everything, because it's all just so fast. And I'm sure a lot of it is because people don't understand the distances, and the windy roads and how long it takes to do one thing from the next, which is, something that is just part of Italy, and people don't really understand that unless you've really been here a lot and understand sort of the terrain. But I'm sure this too. Like, people want to go to Chianti and go to like 5 wineries and in one day. It's a lot,
Well, someone even asked me if they could do 6 wineries in one day, thinking they could just go in and taste a bit there. And I was like, no, I don't think that will ever work. I think the maximum I've done is 3, and that's exhausting.
Yeah.
Because it's not that fast here. Either to go to a winery, of course, they want to show you all their things, so it's not like you can just go in and go out, and it's a bit harder. It's not because probably because the tasting rooms are not really like Napa or something where you can just
right. Yeah, also because they want you to like not only taste their wines, but show you around and tell their story, and maybe other family members are going to pop in and out of the situation. You're going to meet other people and maybe walk through the vineyards, and before you know it, like 2 hours have gone by. It's not, or you just don't know. Maybe they've got something going on and they have to do a little bit faster tasting, so it goes a little bit fast, but you never know what's going to happen until you're there.
That is true. No, you never know how long time it will take. But I think also like it is a bit crazy. I mean, to do like Rome in one day, Florence in one day, Venice in one day. But yeah, it's like that would be like, we would go to the States and we would do like, I don't know, Dallas one day, and I don't know, South Carolina the next, and New York the third.
No, people want New York, San Francisco, LA, Miami. That's usually
I mean, that's nothing you would ever think about doing, because it would be crazy, I think. But it is a bit like that. Okay, I mean, Italy is probably like, the size of Texas or whatever, but still, I mean, you wouldn't go. It's a bit long distance to do all these things. I don't know. Of course, probably people coming to Italy thinks they want to see everything in the week they're there, or 10 days, but still, I think to choose and to perhaps make a choice of the things you see, but in a more sustainable way, is probably what I would think would be nicer to have also for
So that's the hope, is that people are thinking more carefully about how they want to travel. Although, to be honest, I haven't seen a lot of articles or people writing about this very topic that we're talking about now. I haven't seen a lot about that, like how people are rethinking travel and so forth. So I don't know.
So we can write that article.
I think we have to write those articles, right?
Write that.
Right.
No, I haven't seen that either, I must say. I haven't seen, because nobody really knows what's going to happen, so perhaps people are not. And I guess also to write about travel might be a bit, because you don't really know when you can travel again. So You
Yeah.
hope in the summer or in the autumn, but we don't really know. I think that's
But
another
surely,
thing.
surely people like you and I, whether if you work in the wine industry, or you work in travel, or anything remotely related to travel, people are thinking. I mean, I believe that people are thinking about rethinking. They're thinking about rethinking their approach to
Yeah,
travel.
no, but I
I would
haven't seen.
think,
Yeah,
but
no, I haven't seen any articles about it either. So I guess we have to write it,
yeah.
publish it, to be the first. No, but that's interesting. So, yeah. Anything else you want to add before we?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we kind of covered, the state of what's going on here in Italy, and um the uncertainty of it all. And but I'm super positive. I really,
No, I think so
because
too.
we
I
all
think
we all know we all know that it's going to come back, and our work, the work that we love, is going to come back. It's just a matter of time. Yeah.
no, I think so too. It's taking a bit longer, but for sure it's going to come back. So we just have to be prepared when everything gets going again. I keep seeing all these posts about people who can't wait to get to travel again. So I'm sure
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's going to happen. So I think we will probably rethink the day and the time a bit for our live streams.
Yeah.
Because now when things starts to become opening up slowly, I guess Friday evening is not the best moment for any of us. So we'll see. We'll just fix another day
Okay.
and
Sounds great.
well,
Always
you can stay
lovely
on, and
chat.
then while I close it, you can stay on. And so for everybody, I see there's people listening in. So thank you for listening, and to Carol and me. And if you have any questions or any tips for what to talk about, just write it in a comment. And we'll be back next week with more news.
Right.
Ciao.
Ciao.